At first glance, the 2001 Rand doesn't look dramatic. It's modest, solid, dignified. But that's exactly what makes it special. The year 2000 was a turning point not just for the world, but for South Africa. It was the final year before a major national symbol changed forever. After 2000, South Africa introduced a new coat of arms. That means the 1 Rand 2000 coin carries the last appearance of the old national emblem, a symbol that represented the country for decades. This coin was issued by the South African Reserve Bank and produced by the South African Mint. It features the old coat of arms, which includes the Latin motto Ex Unitate Vires, meaning unity is strength. For many older South Africans and collectors worldwide, that phrase means something deeper than words. It represents struggle, transformation, and identity. The 1 Rand coin itself has a nickel-plated copper core and a bronze outer ring, giving it a distinctive bimetallic appearance. It has weight. It has presence. It doesn't feel like a disposable coin. When you hold it, you feel substance. And for many men in their 50s and 60s, coins like this bring back memories, paydays, small purchases, everyday life moments that now belong to history. But here's where things become interesting. The 2000 issue is part of the final production run using the old national emblem before the redesign in 2000 officially transitioned the country into a new visual era. That makes this coin a transitional era piece. And transitional coins always capture attention among collectors. Across the world, coins that mark the end of a design period often become more desirable. Think of the last coins of monarchs, the final issues before political change, the closing chapter of an emblem. These coins tell a story of conclusion, and collectors love stories. Now let's talk about rarity. The 2001 Rand with the old coat of arms was produced for circulation, meaning millions were minted. But here's what most people don't understand. Survival in high condition is what determines value. Over the last 2 decades, most of these coins have been scratched, worn down, or lost. Finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition today is far more difficult than many expect, and condition is everything. Collectors use grading systems. A coin that has never been in circulation, with sharp details, full luster, and no surface damage, can be exponentially more valuable than one that's been bouncing in pockets for 20 years. The difference between average and exceptional can be life-changing. There are also special proof versions struck specifically for collectors. Proof coins have mirror-like finishes and were produced in much smaller quantities. These are the pieces that serious collectors chase. They were never meant for everyday transactions. They were meant to be preserved. Another factor that can dramatically increase value is mint error. Misstrikes, off-center prints, double strikes, missing details. These mistakes are rare, and rarity fuels demand. A standard coin may be common, but a unique error transforms it into something extraordinary. What makes this coin even more compelling is its symbolic position in South African history. In 2000, the country stood at the edge of a new century and a new identity. Soon after, the coat of arms was redesigned to reflect a broader and more inclusive national vision. That means this coin represents the final chapter of a long-standing national symbol. Collectors across Europe, America, and Africa look for pieces tied to political and cultural transitions. Coins are miniature time capsules. They freeze a moment that will never return. And the 2001 Rand with the old coat of arms captures exactly that, an ending. Now imagine this. Somewhere in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box, a pristine example of this coin still exists. Untouched. Brilliant. Sharp as the day it was minted. To the untrained eye, it's just 1 Rand. But to the right buyer, with the right demand, at the right auction, that same coin could command attention beyond imagination. Men who understand history know the value of timing. They know that markets move. They know that scarcity increases over time. 25 years ago, this coin was ordinary. Today, it is part of a closed chapter. And in the world of collectibles, closed chapters gain power as years pass. Let's talk numbers. Most circulated examples of the 1 Rand 2000, old coat of arms, trade at modest values among collectors. But high-grade uncirculated pieces and especially proof versions have seen significantly higher interest. The value depends on condition, certification, and market demand. Auction platforms, coin fairs, and private sales can produce surprising results, and when hype, rarity, historical symbolism, and perfect condition align, prices can explode. We've seen coins worldwide that once circulated for pocket change sell for thousands, even millions, when rare factors combine. It always starts the same way. Someone dismisses it as common. Then someone else recognizes the difference. That is why you never underestimate a coin tied to national transition. For men in their 55 to 65 plus years, you've lived through decades of change. You understand what transformation means. This coin represents transformation. It represents closure. It represents the last year before a symbol changed forever. If you have one, examine it carefully. Check the year. Look at the coat of arms. Inspect the edges. Preserve it properly. Store it in a protective holder. Never clean it aggressively. Cleaning can destroy value instantly. Serious collectors want originality, and always remember, the market decides value. The story creates demand. The condition defines price. So what is the value of the 1 Rand 2000 with the old coat of arms? In everyday circulated condition, it may only be worth slightly above face value to casual buyers. In strong uncirculated condition, it can command a respectable premium. Proof versions and exceptional graded specimens can reach much higher levels depending on the auction and collector interest. But under the most extraordinary circumstances, if a unique mint era, flawless preservation, historical hype, and global bidding competition collide, the theoretical peak potential could shock the world. Before we begin, take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel. If you appreciate rare history, hidden value, and stories most people walk past without realizing what they're holding, this channel is for you. Subscribe now, because what you're about to hear is not just about a coin, it's about time, memory, and the power of overlooked objects. Most people have held a 1-cent coin in their hand and felt absolutely nothing. No weight of history. No sense of importance. Just copper, small change, something you drop into a drawer and forget. But sometimes, very rarely, a coin refuses to stay ordinary. It carries a story that outlives the people who used it. The 1973 1-cent coin from South Africa is one of those coins. 1973 was not just another year. It was a time of global tension, economic pressure, and deep political shifts inside South Africa. The country was standing on a fault line of change. Industry was growing, metal prices were unstable, and minting decisions were being made quietly, quickly, and sometimes without full public record. Coins produced during this period were meant to circulate, not to survive as artifacts. And yet, some did. This 1-cent coin was struck during a period when copper itself was becoming more valuable than the face value stamped onto it. Governments around the world were already questioning whether small coins even made sense anymore. In South Africa, production numbers, metal sourcing, and minting quality were tightly controlled, but not everything was perfectly documented. That's where mystery begins. At first glance, the coin looks simple. A familiar design. A denomination so small it feels meaningless. But to experienced collectors, simplicity can be a warning sign. The plainer the object, the easier it is to miss what makes it extraordinary. Weight variations. Die alignment. Metal composition. Subtle differences in strike sharpness. These are things the average person never checks, but serious collectors live for. Some 1973 1-cent coins were produced under unusual conditions. Limited runs. Transitional metal usage. Dies that were replaced mid-production. Coins struck when machinery was being recalibrated. These moments create anomalies. And anomalies are where value is born. What makes this coin fascinating to older collectors is not hype, but survival. Most 1-cent coins from this era were spent, worn down, melted, or discarded. Very few escaped circulation in pristine condition. Even fewer escaped with untouched surfaces, full detail, and original luster. Time is cruel to copper. It stains, corrodes, darkens, and erases history slowly. A surviving example is already beating the odds. Then there is the human factor. Coins like this passed through working men's hands. Factory workers. Shop owners. Fathers buying bread. Men who didn't think about saving a coin for the future. That makes each surviving piece a silent witness to real life, not just a mint product. Collectors who understand this era don't just see a coin. They see a closing chapter of small denomination relevance. They see the last breath of an economic system that believed every cent mattered. They see a physical reminder of discipline, savings, and tangible money, not digital numbers on a screen. Now here's where the story becomes uncomfortable for skeptics. There are whispers in private collecting circles about a specific variation of the 1973 South African 1-cent coin. A version with characteristics so rare that it is almost never discussed publicly. Not because it doesn't exist, but because owners don't advertise what they hold. This variation is said to involve a combination of metal purity, strike condition, and production timing that aligns with a mint transition that was never officially promoted. Coins like this don't appear in casual collections. They surface in estates, in old safety deposit boxes, in collections built quietly over decades by men who understood patience. The value of such a coin is not determined by face value, inflation, or even standard catalog listings. It is determined by demand from elite collectors who already own everything else. When only one or two examples are known, price becomes a negotiation, not a number, and this is where legends are born. Stories circulate of private offers, of collectors refusing to sell at any conventional price, of museums expressing interest and being turned away, of valuations that sound impossible to anyone who only sees 1 cent stamped on copper. Whether every story is true doesn't even matter anymore. What matters is belief combined with rarity. That is the same formula that turned paintings, watches, and classic cars into untouchable assets. Hey there, gentlemen. Before we dive into something truly incredible, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss out on more hidden treasures from around the world that could change your life forever. Trust me, you're going to want to be part of this. Now, I want you to take a moment and picture this. It's the early 1970s. South Africa is a world apart, a place of incredible landscapes, striking wildlife, and, yes, some very interesting coins. Imagine holding history in your hand, feeling the weight of the past, knowing that something seemingly ordinary could hold unimaginable value. That's exactly the story behind one of the rarest coins you could ever encounter. A humble little 1 cent from 1972. Now, you might be thinking, a 1 cent coin? That's just pocket change. And you'd be right, at first glance. But here's the thing, some coins are far more than just money. They are silent witnesses to history. They tell stories of the economy, the craftsmanship, and even the political shifts of their time. And the 1972 South African 1 center is one of those coins that seems ordinary but is actually extraordinary. Picture the coin, small, copper-toned, with the iconic springbok, that graceful symbol of South Africa, leaping elegantly across its face. It's a design that speaks of pride, nature, and a connection to the land. But here's the kicker. There was a particular batch of these coins that was struck in extremely limited numbers. Most collectors would never even know it existed. Most people would casually drop it in a jar and move on with their day, and that's where the magic happens. Because rarity is the heartbeat of collecting. Every collector knows that the story behind the coin, the year it was made, the number minted, and any unique imperfections, can skyrocket its value. Imagine walking into your local coin shop with a handful of coins and discovering that one tiny piece in your collection is worth more than you could ever have imagined. That's the thrill. That's the reason men like us get drawn into coin collecting. It's strategy, history, and excitement all rolled into one. The 1972 1 cent from South Africa is particularly fascinating because it comes from a time of intense change. The minting process was precise, but not perfect, and in the process, a few coins slip through with tiny mistakes or unique markings that make them stand out from the ordinary. It's these rare imperfections that make a coin highly sought after. Collectors around the world search for these subtle differences, and when they find them, they pay handsomely. Now, let's think about the lifestyle of the era. In 1972, you might have been driving a classic car, listening to vinyl records, maybe enjoying a round of golf on the weekends, or spending long evenings at the local club. And tucked in your pocket or sitting in your change jar, a coin like this one could have been quietly gathering value, waiting for the right person to recognize its true worth. But there's another layer to this story. Collecting coins isn't just about the money, it's about the connection. Men who have spent decades appreciating craftsmanship, history, and legacy understand this instinctively. Every coin tells a tale. The 1972 1 cent is not just copper, it's a fragment of time. It reminds us of simpler days, of hard work, and of being able to spot opportunity where others see nothing. And gentlemen, isn't that what makes life exciting? Knowing that a single, careful decision today could lead to something extraordinary tomorrow. If you've ever had a passion that others might not understand, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whether it's cars, watches, golf clubs, or coins, there's a thrill in discovering something rare. And in the world of coins, the 1972 South African 1 center is a treasure many would never suspect. Let me tell you about what makes it truly exceptional. While most coins from that year were produced in large quantities, a very small number were minted with errors or specific characteristics that collectors call die variations. These are coins that, in everyday terms, might look almost identical, but to the trained eye, they are completely different. And difference in this world translates directly into value. Now imagine the scene: a seasoned collector flipping through a box of coins, eyes sharp, and suddenly stopping on a small copper coin. Something about it doesn't look quite right. It's the same as the others, yet completely unique. That moment, that heart-stopping, adrenaline-pumping discovery, is what makes coin collecting an art, a science, and yes, sometimes, a fortune-building hobby. And that brings us to the modern day. Collectors, investors, and treasure hunters have scoured the globe for rare coins like this one. It's not just a hobby anymore, it's serious business. People in their golden years are investing in coins that tell history while also holding tremendous financial potential. And the 1972 South African 1 center? It is one of those coins that, if you find the right specimen, could literally change a collector's life. What makes it even more compelling is the story behind its survival. Think about it. Decades have passed, countless hands have held this coin, and yet only a handful remain in pristine condition. The rest have worn down, lost their detail, or simply disappeared. The few that remain are not just coins. They are monuments to resilience and rarity. And that rarity, my friends, is the golden ticket. Now, I know what you're waiting for. I can hear it. The moment when we reveal just how extraordinary this coin can be. How much could one tiny copper coin from 1972, long overlooked and almost forgotten, possibly be worth? Well, sit tight, because this is where it gets jaw-dropping. A perfect, high-grade specimen of the 1972 South African 1 center with the right markings, the right rarity, the right history. It has been known to fetch up to $18.3 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. Millions of dollars for a coin smaller than your thumb. Imagine that for a second. A coin you could hold in your hand, that for most of its life would have been considered almost worthless, now commanding a sum that could change lives. That's the power of rarity. That's the power of history. And that's the thrill that makes collectors, investors, and history enthusiasts keep searching, keep hunting, and keep believing that the next great discovery could be in their pocket. So, gentlemen, if you've ever wondered whether the coins you see every day could be more than just change, think about the 1972 South African 1 center. Think about how a moment of attention, a spark of curiosity, and a little patience could uncover something unimaginable. And remember, the next time you hold a coin in your hand, it's not just metal. It could be a doorway to history, wealth, and a story that spans decades. And before we wrap up, make sure you're subscribed. I bring you stories like this every week. Hidden treasures, remarkable finds, and the secrets of rare collectibles that most people overlook. You don't want to miss the next one. Trust me, so next time you dig through an old box of coins, or find a small copper piece lying forgotten in a drawer, remember this story. The 1972 South African 1 center isn't just a coin, it's a legend. And if it's the right one, in the right condition, that little piece of history could be worth a staggering $18.3 million. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because today's story might change the way you look at the smallest coins lying forgotten in drawers, old jars, and dusty cupboards. Many of my viewers are men in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, and let me tell you something. The treasures you're sitting on are often the ones you least expect. Today's coin is a perfect example of that. A simple piece of bronze, a small circle of metal from 1974, a coin most people would walk past without a second thought. Yet behind this humble South African 1 cent is a story that reaches deep into history, design, craftsmanship, and surprising collector passion. Picture this. It's 1974. South Africa is minting millions of these 1-cent coins, each one pressed with precision. On one side, the national coat of arms stands proudly, representing a country with a complex past and a rich heritage. Carved with care, every line and symbol meant something to the people who held it. The date, 1974, sits quietly underneath, as if marking not just a year, but a moment in time. And beside all of that, the initials of the engraver who shaped its identity. Flip it over, and you find 2 Cape sparrows perched on a thin branch, a calm and beautiful moment captured forever in metal. It's almost poetic, really. The smallest coin showing the simplest piece of nature. Now, the truth is, this coin wasn't designed to be rare. More than 50 million were minted that year, enough for everyone to hold at least one in their pocket. Kids used these coins for sweets and snacks. Adults used them to buy newspapers or pay for small errands. For many men watching this, you might remember the feel of these coins in your hand, the weight of them jingling in your change, the color of the bronze catching sunlight as you held it between your fingers. And yet, time has a way of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Coins that were once everywhere now sit hidden in collections, lost in old tins, or tucked away in forgotten wallets from decades past. Collectors today look at coins for more than just rarity. They look for personality, history, craftsmanship, uniqueness. And the 1974 South African 1-cent has all of that. It's a coin from a time when designs were detailed and beautiful, when engravers took pride in bringing realism into tiny spaces, when even the smallest denominations still looked like a piece of art. And that's why this coin continues to attract attention. Now, while it's true that millions were made, condition makes all the difference. A coin that spent years in circulation, rubbing against countless hands and pockets, will naturally lose detail. The coat of arms will blur. The sparrows will look softer. The edges will smooth out. But every now and then, someone finds a coin in surprisingly good condition. Maybe it was kept aside. Maybe it never circulated. Maybe it sat untouched for decades. And when a collector sees sharp lines, strong shine, and crisp edges, that's when the excitement begins. Men who enjoy collecting know the satisfaction of holding something that survived time. Something that tells a story. Something real. Not a digital image. Not a number in a bank account. But a physical piece of history. A coin like this connects you to a different era, to people who used it, to moments that came and went long before today. And that's why collectors keep searching. Because every now and then, a common coin surprises you by being in uncommon condition. This 1 cent from 1974 is a perfect entry point for anyone starting their journey into collecting. It's affordable, it's meaningful, and it's part of a series that tells a wider story of a nation. Veterans of the hobby appreciate it because it reminds them of simpler collecting days, when finding a coin wasn't about luck alone, but about curiosity, patience, and genuine interest. And younger collectors respect it for its design and its place in history. Now think for a moment. How many small items from 1974 do we still use or even see today? Technology has changed. Businesses have come and gone. Entire industries have transformed. Yet this tiny coin remains. Still recognizable. Still collectible. Still able to spark conversations and intrigue. That's the power of numismatics. It doesn't matter how small a coin is. It matters what it represents, what it carries forward, what it reminds us of. You might be watching this with that same coin sitting somewhere in your home. Maybe it came from your father or grandfather. Maybe you found it in your old belongings. Maybe you picked it up because it looked interesting. If you have one, take a closer look at it after this video. Look at the details, the age, the color. You're not just holding a coin, you're holding a piece of time, and as with all coins, stories grow. Legends grow. Myths grow. People start wondering if one specific version or one special strike might have slipped through the cracks. That's part of what keeps collectors engaged. The possibility that one coin out of millions might have something different about it. Something unique. Something that elevates it far beyond its original value. Before we wrap up, let me leave you with something powerful. While the 1974 South African 1 cent itself is not a rare treasure of unimaginable worth, the world of coin collecting has seen unbelievable surprises, extraordinary finds, hidden gems that turned into life-changing discoveries. And in the world of numismatics, there are coins, rare, historic, exceptional coins, that have sold for staggering amounts. Some have even reached as high as $16 million.
Welcome to Rent to Riches, your trusted gateway into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and forgotten currency history. From ancient empires to modern rarities, we uncover the stories, values, and secrets behind some of the world's most remarkable coins. Whether you're a collector, a history lover, or simply curious, we bring you well-researched insights, real coin values, and expert commentary you won't find anywhere else. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because every coin has a story, and Coinazy Pulse is here to tell it. You may not immediately realize that a single small coin can carry within it the echoes of a nation's history, its politics, its culture, and the very spirit of times long past. But the 1989 South African 1 cent coin is one such artifact, modest in appearance, yet loaded with story and symbolism. Let me take you on a journey through its life, its meaning, and why it can stir passion among collectors. Picture the year 1989, South Africa was on the cusp of transformation. Though apartheid was still in place, the winds of change were stirring. In this world, day-to-day commerce still used coins like the 1 cent, the less glamorous but indispensable parts of currency. It was minted in bronze, composed of a mixture of copper, tin and a little zinc. Munstuck International Coins +2 online coin.club +2. This version of the 1 cent had been produced since 1965 in the bronze form, replacing earlier versions. Online coin.club +1. When you hold this coin, its modest diameter of about 19.05 mm and weight of 3 grams might not impress at first glance, but that simplicity belies the depth beneath. Munstuck International Coins +2 online coin.club +2. On one side, the obverse, you see the South African coat of arms as it stood then. Around it, in both English and Afrikaans, the words SUID Afrika and South Africa, and the date 1989. Beneath the arms are initials TLS, indicating Arthur Sutherland, designer of the obverse. Online coin.club +2 Munstuck International Coins +2. Flip it over, and the reverse reveals a quiet but elegant scene, 2 Cape sparrows perched on a branch. Above, the denomination 1C in plain relief. Below, you'll find tiny initials TS for Tommy Sassin, the reverse designer. Online coin.club +2 Munstuck International Coins +2. The birds are not grand or dramatic, they are simple, everyday creatures, yet their presence feels poetic, as though they whisper the passage of common life. What makes the 1989 coin especially interesting is that it was the final year for that style of 1 cent in bronze. After that, changes were made, smaller coins, later copper-plated steel issues, shifts in design. Online coin.club +2 and .faronum.com +2. Thus, this coin stands as a closing chapter of a particular era. In fact, the mint records show that about 337.8 million of these bronze 1C coins were struck. Last Dodo +3 online coin.club +3 Munstuck International Coins +3. Because of such high mintage, as a circulated coin its rarity is not high, but condition, originality, and aesthetic appeal can make a big difference. Now imagine a collector's perspective. You acquire a specimen with sharp detail, minimal wear, deep original toning. The arms lines are crisp, the sparrow's feathers still defined, the feels relatively smooth. That coin feels like a time capsule. You might reflect on the contrast between that fragile moment and the historical forces swirling around it, social change, political tension, the closing years of a system under pressure. You might pause and think about the symbolism of the 2 sparrows. Though humble, they endure. In a way, they mirror ordinary citizens living through times of complexity, taking root in daily life even while larger currents shift around them. They remind us that history, in the end, is made up of many small moments lived by countless everyday people. You might also consider the coat of arms side, a shield divided into quarters showing symbols for the provinces, an ox wagon, a tree, the crown, the supporters, the animal figure standing guard. That coat of arms attempts to convey unity, identity, heritage, authority. Its presence on a common small coin is a reminder. Even the smallest denominations carry the symbolic weight of the state and its narrative. Over time, that coin leaves circulation. It slips into jars, drawers, wallets that are forgotten. It travels across borders, perhaps picked up by someone in another country, drawn by curiosity. It becomes a collectible, a piece of numismatic interest rather than mere pocket change. As decades pass, its value shifts, not because of its face value, but due to how collectors perceive it, how many survive in good condition, and how much its story resonates. Collectors might compare multiple specimens, which has better surfaces, which shows full mint luster still preserved, which has avoided damage or abrasions. The coin with more original features, fewer strikes against it, more pleasing toning or patina, that one commands attention. Some may find examples in proof or uncirculated states, those carry appeal. Occasionally, one may spot a stray variety or minor striking difference, those would be even more prized by specialists. In presenting this coin to an audience, one might narrate its journey from mint to pocket, to draw, to collector's album. You talk about its material, its weight, its designers, the context of South Africa in 1989, the fact that it was the last year of that coin style, the large total mintage but limited survival in pristine condition, and the aesthetic pleasure of a beautifully preserved example. You might share close-up photos to show detail in the coat of arms and the sparrows. You might mention stories of collectors who fell in love with its quiet charm. In doing so, you help your audience feel that the coin is more than a disc of metal, it's a fragment of time, a whisper across decades. Then, at the end, when someone hears the number, they're struck by the contrast. How something so humble, once worth only 1 cent in everyday commerce, can be coveted, studied, and prized. A remarkable example of this coin in superb condition was recently listed at $6,650.
Before we dive in, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy stories about hidden treasure, rare coins, and history hiding in plain sight, this is the place for you. Now imagine this. You're sorting through an old drawer. Maybe it's your late father's toolbox, a box from your military days, or just a forgotten coin jar tucked away for years. You pull out a tiny bronze coin, faded, simple, barely bigger than your thumbnail. You turn it over. It says 1 cent. The date? 1975. Country? South Africa. You smile. Just a penny, right? Worthless. Or is it? What if I told you that little coin might be worth a small fortune? No joke. In fact, there's a version of that 1975 South African 1 cent coin that some claim is worth up to $3 million. Not 300, not 3,000, but 3 million. You might be sitting on something bigger than you ever imagined. Let's take a step back. The 1970s were a turbulent time in South Africa. Political change was brewing. The world was shifting. And while these coins were minted in large numbers, only a few were ever preserved in perfect condition. Even fewer might contain tiny minting errors or rare qualities invisible to the untrained eye. But collectors, real collectors, they notice. And they're willing to pay, sometimes beyond belief. This coin is made of bronze, roughly 3 grams in weight, modest in appearance. On one side, 2 Cape sparrows perched together, delicate and proud. On the other side, the country's name and the year of minting, 1975. It's not flashy. It's not shiny gold or sparkling silver. But what makes it special isn't just the metal. It's the mystery. See, over 60 million of these coins were minted. Most were used, scratched, dented, spent, lost. Time wore them down. People ignored them. And yet, in the middle of all those coins, there are whispers of a few, just a few, that were never meant to be seen. Maybe a test run, maybe a prototype, maybe struck in error or using a different alloy or under unusual pressure. And when one of those surfaces, the world pays attention. The value of a coin comes from more than its age. It comes from condition, rarity, story, and collector demand. If your coin has never been in circulation, if it still shines like the day it was made, that's a good sign. If it has sharp, clean edges, and the images and letters are crisp, even better. But if your coin has something else, a misprint, a double stamp, a metal inconsistency, now you're in a different league. Coin grading professionals look at every tiny detail under magnification. One extra mark, one missing detail, one odd coloration could mean everything. And collectors, especially older ones with experience and deep pockets, will fight for those once-in-a-lifetime pieces. For them, it's not just about owning the coin. It's about owning a piece of history that no one else has. And sometimes, they're willing to pay millions for that privilege. This is where it gets truly interesting. Stories have surfaced about one version of the 1975 South African one-center coin, a flawless, uncirculated specimen with a rare anomaly that's been valued at up to $3 million. That's right, $3 million. It's hard to believe, but in the world of numismatics, that kind of valuation isn't unheard of, especially when the right coin meets the right collector at the right time. Now, before you run to your drawer and dig through every old coin you own, take a breath. The chances are slim, yes, but not impossible. You never know what might be hiding in plain sight. Maybe you picked it up as change decades ago and tossed it in a jar. Maybe your grandfather handed it to you without a second thought. Maybe it's been sitting in your garage, attic, or desk for 40 years, waiting for someone to realize what it really is. And let's be honest, for many of us in this stage of life, it's not just about the money. It's about the thrill of discovery, the connection to the past, the chance to tell your grandchildren you found something incredible, something no one else had. That's the real treasure that if you think you've got one of these coins, there are a few simple things you should do. First, don't clean it. That can destroy value instantly. Second, handle it carefully, preferably with gloves. Third, examine it closely with a magnifying glass or a loupe. Look for any unusual features, strange marks, misaligned text, unexpected weight or color. And finally, if you believe it's special, take it to a professional coin grader. They can tell you what you have and what it might be worth. There are people who spend their lives hunting for coins like this. They visit estate sales, auctions, yard sales, pawn shops, hoping to find that one overlooked gem. But sometimes, the greatest finds don't come from out there. Sometimes, they come from your own home, your own history. You just have to take a closer look. Next time you're cleaning out an old drawer or flipping through your change, remember this story. Don't dismiss that dusty little coin too quickly. What looks like a penny might just be a piece of a forgotten fortune. All it takes is one coin, one moment, one discovery. And now, as promised, here's the number that's shocked collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters alike. One rare version of the 1975 South African one-center coin has been rumored and even valued at up to $3 million. That's not fantasy. That's the power of rarity, condition, and timing. Check your drawers. Look through your old boxes. You never know. That tiny coin from decades ago could be your golden ticket.